Good evening and welcome to the Norfolk Board of Selectmen's meeting of Monday, August 20th. My name is Jim Lehan. I'm joined by my fellow select person, not off to a good start, Kevin Roach on my left and Anita Mecklenburg on my right. Would you please all stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Do we have any public comment this evening? Seeing none, we will move to the agenda. First on the agenda tonight, as we do in every meeting, is that we try to keep you current on what's going on with the shelter. But tonight we have a really, I think, a special opportunity because two of the folks that work for Heading Home have agreed to join us this evening, and I'm very grateful for that. And they're going to join us here just in 1 minute, but just as way of background, these are not policymakers. These are the folks that are charged with the responsibility of managing this facility, overseeing this facility. I will tell you firsthand that we have had what I think has been an excellent working relationship with them. They've been true partners with us. They've listened to our concerns. It's been a very good working relationship with the hands that we're both dealt. And I'm grateful for that to both of them. And I know it's not easy to come to a public forum like this, but we're thrilled that you agreed. I'm appreciative of it. I thank you for that. So if you would both join me, we have with us Blair Brown and Kate Swope. And we are very grateful for you being here. The benefit to this is that rather than our telling you how effectively we take notes and try to communicate back what really is occurring, because we meet weekly with these folks as well as people from the state, we're very grateful for you being here and hearing more accurately exactly the work that you're doing there. So thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to you folks.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for inviting us to be here to give an update on the temporary respite center at the former Bay State site. My name is Blair Brown. I'm an Assistant Secretary of Education with the state team, currently working as the pre-shelter operations lead on the state's incident command team. Decided to join Kate and the Heading Home team to provide some state perspective tonight, as well as hear the operations from the Heading Home. As you all know, in May, the Healy-Driscoll administration announced plans to use the former Bay State Correctional Center as an overflow site for up to 140 families, and which began at the end of June. And we selected Heading Home to be the overflow shelter provider. And I'm pleased to say that as we sit here tonight, in mid-August, the site is currently operating and housing 63 families. We are grateful for the communication we have had with you, Mr. Chairman, the members of the board, Town Administrator Casanova Davis, Deputy Administrator O'Brien, and other town public safety and education officials throughout the time of setup and as the site's gotten operational and has been operational this summer. We've had the opportunity to be at community forums on June 4th and July 11th, and I know there's been a number of questions that community members have raised to the board members, to town officials, and I want to signal for the members of the audience and the audience at home that the board and town officials have been consistent in following up on the concerns of residents through our weekly calls and in other communications with the state and with Heading Home on all of the concerns that have been raised. And we also appreciate the flexibility that town officials have given as the site has moved from an overflow shelter to a temporary respite center on August 1st, following the Healy-Driscoll administration's policy announcement to that effect on July 23rd. In this new model, family stays at the temporary respite centers are capped at 5 business days unless the family qualifies for one of the limited administrative extensions, such as having imminent access to housing. I will turn it over to Kate to give you more information about how Heading Home is working with families in this new model in terms of getting access to housing and with their transition. As I do that, I want to note how grateful we are to have Heading Home as our provider at this site. Not only does Heading Home do an outstanding job meeting families' needs day-to-day at this site, particularly through the leadership and work of their site director, Jeffrey Bailey. But the organization is also a statewide leader as a diversion provider and is well-equipped to help families determine their next steps. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kate.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate Soap. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Heading Home, which means I'm in charge of all programs and services that we provide. One of those programs, as you know, is the Temporary Respite Center, which was formerly the Overflow Shelter at Bay State. As Blair mentioned, we have had a very strong working relationship with both the members of the Select Board as well as the town, fire, police, EMS, and the state. And we all knew that this was a large undertaking, and that partnership has made it possible. So I want to thank you all. We really greatly appreciate that. As Blair mentioned, we have 63 families currently on site with us. Those families are a mix of families that came to us before August 1st, before the change, and some that have come afterwards. And we are actively working with those families to identify all possible options for what I would call rapid rehousing. So we're working with individuals, families that have stated that there is a safe alternative location for them out of state. So we are doing intensive reticketing to other locations that the families identify are a safe location for them. We're also working with families through the diversion program and a statewide program called Home Base, which helps families lease up in apartments, helps with startup cost and an ongoing rental stipend for a certain amount of money until that runs out. So we're also working to help families identify positive housing outcomes as they transition out of the respite center. Again, I would like to thank everyone, and also special thank you to Jeffrey Bailey, who is our senior director on site at Overflow every single day, doing a really outstanding job.
Great. Questions for the board?
First of all, thank you for your kind words. We feel like we're the lucky ones to have Heading Home to partner with in talking with other communities who have had people housed temporarily in their communities and have not had the services. It's a different journey for them, and so we are very, very fortunate to be able to partner with you in this work, so we're very grateful for you. I guess I was, as you kind of try to wrap your head around the changes from the governor, and I understand that you aren't doing policy, but in terms about the people that are in there in Norfolk right now, what happens to them if where do they go after the 5 days? What if they don't have a safe place to go or a supportive environment? Are people being asked to leave? Or what percentage of the people are affected, are in that position where they don't have another alternative?
It's a very good question. So what I can say at this point is we have not had anyone exit the respite center without a safe place to go.
That makes me so happy.
Yes, we're very, very happy about that.
Excellent. And that's been typical since, so it hasn't been too much time since the governor's change of policy, but that is something then that speaks well to your team, that they're being successful in finding safe places for people to land.
Yeah, the team has done a wonderful job helping folks find units, lease up, and then transition to those communities.
Excellent. And I just wanted to share the Norfolk Welcome Wagon is full of conversation about the upcoming barbecue. And while there certainly have been challenges as we have made this transition to the, now it's a temporary respite center, it's a real opportunity for our community too to give back. And the excitement and the positive energy and those conversations are really lovely. And so those are opportunities for our town as well as challenges. So thank you. I don't think I have.
Kevin?
No, all the questions we answered, you did a great job explaining everything. So.
I think one thing that I found very interesting in our call a few days ago that I think would be worthy of sharing. When the August 1st change took place, I think it would be helpful if you could clarify for folks exactly what has changed in terms of the choices that families will have. They have two choices, as I understand it, and what your first experience has been with those choices.
I can certainly cover that. Do you want to cover that from a state policies?
I wasn't on that call, so I'm
Okay.
not familiar with the framing, but I'm happy to jump in.
What's being referenced is 4 families that arrive after 8-1 and are a priority 4, a category 4, what options they have at the front door.
Oh, okay. So for new families who are coming to who arrive in the state and or families who are in need of shelter, I should say, whether they are new to the state or have lived in the state for a long time, arrive at our family welcome centers and are in need of shelter, or they arrive at their homeless at an HLC office. They are given 2 options. They are given the opportunity to go to a temporary respite center. By doing that, if they choose that option, their placement on the waiting list for housing through the EA shelter system, so for shelter in the EA shelter system, is delayed by 6 months. And that is a choice they're making. If they say, you know what, I have a safe alternative for housing, I can wait 6 months, or I can wait until I get placement, they are immediately placed on the wait list, assuming eligibility is on both fronts. So they have to choose a path. And so it's trying to make sure we are saving room in the temporary respite centers for those folks who have a real need for housing immediately. Because as we saw in Norfolk, as soon as we set up these overflow shelters, they were getting full immediately. So we're really trying to meet the demand we were seeing.
So you had some families experience that, I think it was 23, 21?
So we were talking a little bit about the family welcome centers
Yeah.
sort of system and what we're seeing. And I want to be careful because that was just one sort
Right,
of day,
and I'll do that, I'll do that
in
for
one
you.
system.
We're in
Yeah.
this 3 weeks, and this is a first snapshot that may
Yes.
have no validity
Yeah.
for future snapshots.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting piece of data.
I think initially what we're seeing, and being careful that it's an
Understand.
initial piece of data, warm weather, whatnot, some families are not choosing to go to temporary respite centers in the initial, they're choosing to go on the wait list initially.
And that may or
We
may
don't
not
know
hold
how
true
that
for the
will,
next group.
right,
Yeah.
we need to, in the initial days, we need to play that out a bit.
And may I jump in? So if they choose that, I'm just trying to understand the logistics of it. So for the people who are choosing to defer 6 months, that might help the wait list go more quickly because they're coming off this wait list to go to the 6-month wait list. I'm trying to
It's the
understand.
same wait list.
It's the same wait
It's
list.
the same wait list. It just when their start date of
Goes
being
on.
effective.
So
on
it
the
doesn't
wait list.
actually hasten-
It doesn't
hasten people's
No,
placement.
It doesn't.
Excellent. And then in terms of the impact on the schools, that changes now because of the shorter stay period?
Yes, it does shorten to date. So primarily for Norfolk, the biggest change we made is, well, first, primarily, families are moving out much more quickly, and that's the expectation. Secondly, given that we are not having enrollment happen at the site because we do not anticipate a number of these children to enroll in Norfolk, we expect them to move on, as Kate said, leases in other communities. And so the responsibility for getting in touch with the school district where the family is going to enroll really falls to the parents. We, as the state and working with the school district, wanted to do it at the Bay State site, really to help the school district. When you have a large number of kids you're going to enroll, it is beneficial to the school district to try and do that in a coordinated way. Right now, because parents will be going to different communities, we'll leave that, as every parent does, to figure out enrollment on their own. They're given information about school enrollment in their language. We have translated information. Case managers talk to parents about school enrollment for the community that the family's going to. So every family knows their rights about school enrollment. It will just happen for the parents to take the lead versus us trying to do a consolidated school enrollment on site.
Thank you.
Any more?
That's all I can think of. I think it's beneficial for our community.
Justin, any thoughts, comments?
I have no comments. We've had many meetings and know this well.
We don't want to keep you. We're very appreciative of you taking the time to come here. Thank you very much for that. We look forward to every week getting together and seeing what's going on. We know it's a fluid plan. We know that it's going to change on a given day, and we're prepared for that, but you folks have been very good to work with. You've been very responsive to us, and we're very appreciative of that.
Wonderful.
So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
We're always here.
Please give our thanks to Jeffrey as well.
I will, absolutely.
And we appreciate the graciousness and flexibility you've had as you have rolled with not only the setup of the site, but the change in the use and how the policy. So we appreciate the town working with us on that. So thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
again.
Thank you.
All right, to the agenda. We, first on the agenda, approval of the reappointments for the Norfolk Cultural Council. We have Mr. Jake Jacobson and Miss Rachel Amendola have requested reappointment. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve Jake Jacobson and Rachel Amendola to the Norfolk Council.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, well, everyone that volunteers, we appreciate it. We can't run without you. Approval of an appointment to the Housing Authority. We have two candidates. Do I have any discussion on this, or do I have a motion?
It seems like in reading through the communication from both of the candidates, it seems like Mary's had kind of it's been stressful for her to be on the committees, and she has some mixed feelings about it. And I wonder if giving her a break and just moving forward with Sarah Jennings is a good idea.
Okay. So what is the pleasure?
If it's okay with the board, I would move that we appoint Sarah Jennings to the Housing Authority as a tenant board member.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I do. Any further comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should I-
Unanimous.
Do you
Thank
need me, Amanda, to read that exactly as it's written here?
No.
No.
Okay.
You guys know that the term expirations on both those appointments.
Yes.
June 30, 2027, June 30, 2029, for the tenant board member.
Thank you.
Next is the representative of the MBTA Advisory Board. I guess that I can be the privilege of that, but Justin has, in a moment of complete madness, volunteered to take on that role.
Yay.
And I am not foolish enough to pass up that opportunity. So if you're so willing,
I'm willing.
and maybe you can figure out what they're doing with the center of town, because I haven't been able to figure that out for 3 years. So let me know if you can figure that out. So you're willing to do that?
Yeah, I'll serve as the designee.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I believe we should vote that, should we not? So
All right, so should I make a motion?
if you would be so kind.
I move that we designate Justin Casanova Davis to represent Norfolk on the MBTA Advisory Board.
I will enthusiastically second that. Any further discussion? Justin, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Took me off the hook. Thank you, sir. We have a number of issues. Justin, I'm going to let you go through those if you would, sir.
Yeah, there's several requests for the use of Town Hill. So we have the Girl Scouts Welcome Back Picnic. That's going to be September 5th from 5 to 8:30 p.m. A couple of wedding ceremonies, so that's great to see that. But August 31st from 3:30 to 6 p.m. and September 1st from 2 to 5 p.m. Public safety has been consulted, includes DPW and police and so forth. There's no issues from our public safety, so these events are up for approval by the board.
I got to watch one of those ceremonies not too long ago. They're a really cool spot. It really is nice, especially with the old church in the background. It's all with great pictures. But anyway, do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the events as listed in the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir. Justin?
The next agenda item is consider waiving permitting fees for a community preservation project regarding the field light project. This at the Freeman Kennedy School. This is in conjunction with the CPC as well as recreation. The town has typically, waived fees for town, projects like this. I spoke with Ann Proto as well as our building commissioner Bob Bullock this afternoon. He supports the waiving of the fee, and just for the board's notice, we waived the fee, for example, the fire station project. So we've done this in the past before.
It's been the practice for as long as I can remember, so. We okay?
I'm totally fine with that.
A motion to waive the fees?
I move that we waive the permitting fees for the CPC project in coordination with Recreation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Justin? We have, is Rich joining us for this?
Rich is joining us for this. The board will know, as we're getting close to fall town meeting, we generally, whenever we have sort of street acceptances or zoning articles, for example, it tends to be a procedural matter that we have the board consider these street acceptances and then refer back to the planning board. Rich, why don't you just come up, if you don't mind, please.
Welcome, Rich.
Thank you.
Good evening, Richard McCarthy, Norfolk Town Planner. We had the planning board last week recommended 3 roads to be accepted: Ariana Lane, Toils End Road, and MacArthur Avenue for acceptance as public ways. What I'm here to report, though, for this evening is that Ariana Lane will be in shape. There's a couple things to do, but should be solidly in place to move forward as a public way to get that accepted. I spoke to the developer this evening, what he needs to do. Toils End Road is an older road that we're working towards some of the older streets to get them accepted as public ways. We're in good shape in terms of that road. We have acceptance plans, deeds, and so forth. So that's one of the older roads that we're going to move forward to get accepted that was completed several years ago. MacArthur Avenue was up for consideration, which is the hammerhead that was constructed at the end of Hunter Avenue. We need as-built plans and acceptance plans from the developer, as well as we need to do a title exam to make sure that in terms of what needs to be done in terms of moving it as a public way, who has a ownership interest. So that work needs to be done yet, so that's not going to be ready for the fall. So in terms of what I would ask you to consider is the 2 roads, Ariana and Toils End, referring back to the planning board. The planning board would make a recommendation based on recommendation from DPW, and then you can do your meeting in September, probably, I guess, the 17th meeting, I suppose?
Yes.
Yeah.
Justin, you have?
I would just want to add something to that. I know the board is aware, at our previous town meeting, we had a long discussion about unaccepted roads. And I do want to give credit to Rich as well as DPW and Amanda in our office and staff within those departments. They've really gone and culled the list to look at unaccepted roads. So not only are we looking to just accept roads that are proper for us to accept, it is to try to get more additional Chapter 90 funds. So I have to credit, the teams in doing that work. It is a lot of work. And as Rich mentioned, there are some expenses that go with that as well, because if you have to do assessing work or et cetera, other things. So that's something that we will probably tackle in the transfer at fall town meeting. But I did want to give credit to all the parties that have been working pretty diligently at this before you discussing it further.
No, it was about MacArthur Lane, but I'll wait on that there because they're not going to do nothing with it now, so.
No, I'm pleased to have the roads on, so thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
I don't know MacArthur, but I know you do, but I do know Toils End and Ariana, and this is a good thing. The more of these that are meeting our standards that we can bring into the hoppers, the better. As you say, we get Chapter 90 money for this. It gets off the list of maintaining roads that are not technically our roads. The more of that we can get to go away, the better. So this is a good
Agreed.
thing.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so do I have a motion to send this back to the planning board
So moved.
for those 2 roads, specifically Ariana and Toils End? Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rich, you're still on.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you,
The 97 pages that you sent us.
yeah, are you doing something with
Zoning changes? Yeah.
C6, the presentation, or was that
We need for 111? Why don't
111?
you do the introduction first, Rich, and then
Okay,
we'll have
all right.
Bill.
We're going to have to set aside 3 nights. for this. You guys have been working overtime on this one. I read through these today and I said, okay.
Yeah, yeah, we have been working, and we'll continue to be working on the bylaws going forward. So there are 3 topical areas under consideration for the fall town meeting. One is, I'll handle the easier one, I would suppose, would be to create a definition for story and half-story. We don't actually have those in the zoning bylaw, and it has come forward from the building department, having to deal with a couple of particular houses that were, in terms of identifying height versus story. So that's being proposed for the fall to put that on the book so that we have something to use as guidance. Story is identified in the building code, but half story isn't. But makes sense to have it in the zoning bylaw. Not everybody canvasses through the building code to look for definitions, so that's the first topic. Interesting enough, accessory buildings, we did do last fall, and we had 3 applications. 2 of them were approved successfully. The third was denied, and in so being with that denial, what we have come to learn is that we need to make an adjustment in the language in terms of the intent versus the interpretation. So that's back before town meeting in the fall. This is a critical piece to get corrected, because right now, what was voted last fall to be able to create some flexibility is essentially not, you have to comply with the underlying setbacks, and that wasn't the intent in terms of structure height. So anyway, this time we're approaching it a little bit differently. You're going to put the dimensional requirements for accessory buildings in the dimensional table, make an adjustment for a special permit, which is already there today, but under the dimensional section of the bylaw. And then lastly, just revise where accessory buildings in. So that's that one in terms of the change. The third is the 111 Dedham Street. So we want to talk about it as 111 Dedham Street, but for people who've been around a while, Southwood, the former Southwood Hospital site. As you know, GFI has been working with the town. The planning board had done a zoning analysis study over about a year and a half, presented some findings, and then in those findings asked the developer, the property owner, to consider what was presented in terms of feasible opportunities, community desires, and so forth, and put this together, what would be in the, where everything could come together. And as a result of that, the direction is to move in a commercial industrial development for the site, shifting away from residential. Purely in terms of residential standpoint, assisted living would still be one of the uses that would be allowed, but this suite of changes would remove age-restricted housing that's in the underlying zoning, as well as some multifamily. And there are some other adjustments in terms of, which you'll see shortly, is a concept plan how they propose to redevelop the site. It's unique in the sense that C6 is only former Southwood Hospital property. That's it. That's the only 2 properties within the district. So in terms of the changes, these changes just coincide with that area of town. So the planning board have forwarded zoning bylaws for consideration. They're scheduling a public hearing September 10th, and then they'll be taking public comments, but I think that's probably sets the stage to segue to Bill to present his slides for 111 Dedham Street. I could answer questions afterwards.
Please, Bill. Nice to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you, Richard.
Welcome.
Chairman Leand, members Mecklenburg and Member Roach, Administrator Casanova Davis. For the record, my name is William Buckley. I am the project director for 111 Dedham Street, Inc. And I want to just thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight in support of the zoning article. We've greatly appreciated the ability to comment on the draft zoning article, to participate in some of the workshops that the planning board has held on this project, and we greatly appreciate our ability to work with Rich and Justin throughout this process. And what we did, and I'm going to try to be very brief, was we've worked in recent months to identify a project that's consistent with the town's new master plan, consistent with the zoning analysis for the Southwood Hospital site that the planning board performed last year. And after much consideration, review of the remediation needs and the assessment needs of the site, and participation in the analysis, it's our desire and intent to create a first-class, state-of-the-art commercial and industrial park at the site in conjunction with, and this is important, with the extensive assessment and remediation that is still necessary at the site. As we presented, and I guess just as a refresher to the board, as we presented to the board earlier this year, we have a conceptual layout that, maybe the next slide, it shows 3 light industrial buildings, and this is primarily on what we're identifying as the site itself is 96 acres. There's 74 acres is a portion of the site that we're dedicating towards the light industrial park. The plan also contemplates, in the next slide, the plan also contemplates 2 out parcels, right, for potential commercial uses that we think are more consistent with kind of the frontage on Route 110. On Route 1A. We have almost 2/3 of a mile of frontage along Route 1A, and we think there's great opportunity for, a variety of commercial uses that would be appropriate for that site. Maybe a restaurant use, maybe, some sort of neighborhood retail or the like. So we think there's a lot of opportunity there. Back to on the industrial park plan, it's 545,000 square feet and multi-tenant flex space. I think we talked about potential tenants. It would potential light industrial, light manufacturing, office and warehouse uses. And we think the highlights of the project are one, that it meets the metrics that were identified in the zoning analysis and a lot of the goals of the master plan. We think the project's going to result in the remediation of the site, right, to bring it to a level of no significant risk for the uses proposed. It's going to have strong fiscal impact, job creation, manageable impacts for the town with no additional school children that some residential uses may have provided, and no new residential. In closing, I just want to say that this zoning article is kind of an early step in what we see as a multi-step process, and it's a step in the right direction for what we think are kind of common needs in the remediation of the site, or common goals in the remediation of the site and the redevelopment of the project. Again, we support the draft article. Knowing that there's significant design and engineering work, significant remediation work, and we know that that's real important to the neighborhood and the PIP group, that all be done and be done professionally and be done properly, and that we communicate those efforts with the group. I think it's important to note, too, that we also are here to just express our support for the negotiation of a development agreement between the town and 111 Dedham Street, Inc. As we start to, as we start to move further down the process, where the town is sticking its neck out to change the zoning and to allow for, a conceptual plan to move forward, right? The developer also needs to make some, to memorialize our kind of mutual understandings and agreements of how we're going to go about remediation, how we're going to go about developing the site so that it meets all our goals. So, with that, I'm available to answer any questions, and whether it be, and I'd be happy to meet with any of you to discuss in greater detail as needed. So I'll close there.
Well, first, thank you for being here. You've presented this in great detail to us in the past, so we have more detail than what you shared tonight, and you and I have had a chance to visit also. I am 100% supportive of this project, and I really, really am encouraged to hear you say you want a developer's agreement. I completely agree with that. There have been more false starts to this piece of land. I mean, we can never seem to get the team on the field.
Yeah.
And so this one looks like it's really going to happen. And it's your plan. I'm not an expert on plan design, but it certainly looks like something that will fit very nicely in that area. And also, it will bring a consistent amount of revenue to our community. We're not exactly overflowing with commercial revenue.
That's correct.
And this will be a big boost to us. So personally, I can't speak for the board because we have not voted on this or spoken, on it as a group. They can speak individually, but I fully support this and would fully support a development agreement.
Thank you.
Nita?
I just want to echo what Jim said. Thank you for being here. It is an exciting project. Years and years and years ago, I remember presentations on town meeting and about all these things that were going to happen that never really happened. So it's exciting to see progress moving forward, and it seems like really thoughtful. And I'm excited for the abutters to know that the mitigation is happening to make it a safe site. So that's exciting. It's disappointing that there's no residential because that's a real need for our community, but I understand the constraints that you're under, and so that's something I was hopeful to see on the brown sections that we could consider residential, because I think that would benefit us as well. But I don't have any questions at this time. I'm pleased about the work and pleased about your partnership with the PIP group, and thank you.
Kevin?
I look forward to hearing more details about it in the future, so.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to
Do we need-
send these lovely articles back to the planning board?
We need to vote on it? This is
We
a
do.
voting? All right. I move that we refer the zoning articles. Thank you. I'm sorry, my brain is just being a little slow here. I move that we refer the zoning articles back to the planning board to prepare for fall town meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We look forward to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your hard work on this, Rich.
Thank you.
Yep. Justin, we have a police detail.
Yes, as the board's aware, this has sort of become a habitual vote that we take for any, elections that we have. Our town clerk, Carol Green, our police chief, Chief Hines, discussed the needs for the state primary election on September 3rd. So they're requesting, in addition to the officer inside of the poll, which is required by the new, not new, but the law, they're also requesting that an officer be placed outside for the duration of the polling hours as well. And yes, that's the request that the plan that they came together, and there we go.
Same as always. Yep.
Yes. And have we always had an officer in and an officer out, or is that a change?
At the last election, we did put an officer outside as well.
We have
our
Deputy Chief with us this evening. Is that, can you answer that? I'm not sure I remember either.
Yeah, we
They
typically
were
do
outside,
have one in
yeah.
and out.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Questions, anyone?
No questions.
Motion to approve?
I move to approve a police detail for September 3rd, 2024, the state primary election.
Second.
All in favor?
Two officers, an officer in and an officer out. There we go. Sorry about that. So-
Unless it's cold, then they can both stay inside.
Or raining.
All right, Justin, stormwater amendment.
Did you vote on that one?
Should we vote? I'm not sure I
Oh,
voted.
we did not, did we? Oh. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. It carries, sorry. My apologies.
The next item, Mr. Chair, is considering of approval of a stormwater amendment with Beta Group. This is associated with our stormwater projects. This project is essentially amending the agreement for professional services. It's increasing some of the services that we have, and it's mostly aligned around GIS services regarding impervious layer and impervious layers. I spoke with Blair and Barry this afternoon. There are some unencumbered funds that we had from a previous budget that is allowing us to cover these services. So they've worked with Todd, our finance director, to make sure that we can account for these expenses. There's no additional operating budget expenses utilizing funds that we've already had. So it's just those additional tasks that are outlined in the board's packet, which accounts to about $53,500.
I just had a question. I'm just curious what the additional work is. I mean, I read the addendum, the GIS, the culvert layer. Is that specifically what it is encompass?
Yes.
Okay. So these were not in the original agreement?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
I don't have any questions.
Motion to approve?
I move that we approve the stormwater amendment for the Beta Group and authorize the town administrator to sign any associated contracts.
Second.
Any discussion? Remember to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, the next item is considering the approval of the CPC project regarding Town Hill and the services there. I'm going to have our Assistant Town Administrator, Kate O'Brien, talk about that because she's the lead of that project in our office. So I'll give her opportunity to catch you up to speed with what we're doing there.
Thank you. So before the board is a contract with the firm Beals & Thomas for professional engineering services for the assessment and design of the rehabilitation of Town Hill for $71,350. Little background, in May, a town meeting voted to approve Article 23 that appropriated CPC funds for the same amount of money for this project. So the overall assessment will include site layout, grading, electrical, irrigation, landscaping, lighting. When this work concludes, we are expected to have a cost construction estimate, and we hope to provide an update to residents at special town meeting if that is possible by the time the work is complete. I am the lead on this, but of course with all the projects, there's a team behind me. The Recreation Director, Ann Prado, DPW Director, Blair Crane, and Facilities Director Matt Melnert are all working on this project, and we will incorporate other departments as the need fits down the road.
Okay. Questions, anyone?
No, I don't have any questions.
No, nor do I. Okay, do we have a motion?
All right.
You're on a roll, Tom.
All right, I move that we approve the Town Hill, approval for the proposal for engineering services on Town Hill and authorize the town administrator to sign any associated contracts.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Yes, thank you, Kate. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, this next agenda item, I'm going to pass it to Kate as well because she's working with our deputy chief, who they've been working hand in hand on this issue. So I'll let Kate talk about that first.
Thank you. So before the board is an intermunicipal agreement with the towns of Rentham and Plainville for the co-response clinician position. So this position is funded entirely by a very robust state program through the Department of Mental Health. But in case anything changes, as you know, changes always happen in the world. So this agreement states that the cost of the position, including the benefits, will be split between the three communities if needed to be. So just some brief background. A co-response clinician works alongside police officers and provides crisis response to individuals in need. They offer on-the-scene de-escalation, support and assessments of mental status, and to help determine if the person is at risk to themselves or other people. Along with regular ride-alongs for all the departments, this position will also provide critical follow-up in the means of in-person, phone, and referrals. So also this position isn't entirely new to the town. The town has had this role in the past, but on a very different circumstances, part-time basis. It was also coordinated through a nonprofit. So In this case, the employee, so in that case, the employee was not an employee of the towns. So due to some hiring difficulties from the state, so they have allowed Norfolk to recruit for this position. So this person will be a Town of Norfolk employee, and they'll be ingrained in the police departments, Norfolk, Rentham, and Plainville, which I think will be very important. I don't have anything else to add. If you have any questions, Deputy Palladini is here as well.
I'll go ahead.
Feel free. Yep.
So first of all, thank you. I think it's very exciting. I think it's a real opportunity for our police department, and I appreciate the partnership because that always helps the budget, which is a good thing for us. You said that it was funded by a program. How, I know that you don't have a crystal ball, but is it likely that the program, has the program been in place for a long time and is likely to continue to be able to afford the position, or is it like a 1 year, one and done?
No, it's been continuous, and it's a very reliable, if I can say that, reliable. Yeah.
Awesome, because it'll be easier to attract a candidate if we're able to make kind of a commitment, so.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
It sounds exciting to me, a real opportunity for us, so thank you, and thank you to our police for pursuing that.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Nope, no questions.
This is a great position in my book. I mean, if I had my vote, we'd have more than one. We'd have one in each town because it is so needed. And we see it in the schools. Well, you have, I apologize if I'm putting you on the spot, Deputy Chief, but will you have involvement with the schools in this capacity at all as well?
Yes, we will. The benefit of the position is that not only is it shared within the tri-towns, but it's also shared within the schools, too. Since we serve those 3 communities, obviously, within the school system, the clinician will be partnered with our school resource officers, so they'll be able to accompany the SROs to the school in liaison with the school counselors, school psychologists, so it's a very, very important position for the schools as well as for the town.
We have been investing more and more into counseling services at the schools because some of the data you see is just alarming, what kids have gone through and where they are. And we won't get into the debate of the hows and the whys, you would know better than I, but it's frightening. And anything we can do to help with the mental well-being of all of our citizens, but I don't want to say especially kids, but kids are near and dear to all of us. So that this is, I wish you could get 3 of them. So, have you had any experience with it at all?
With a co-response clinician? Yeah, so as Kate had said, we had one for a year and a half, but it was in a part-time capacity because there truly is a hiring crisis for these positions, largely because the funding either isn't there, communities can't afford it, or they're not able to get the grants, or they simply can't find people that want to do the work. It takes a special person to want to work alongside police officers and go into potentially dangerous situations, work with individuals in crisis, and the salary has to be there. And that was part of our determination and decision-making to bring this position into the town of Norfolk, retaining those grant funds, but also being able to offer a higher salary because we're sort of cutting out the middleman, so to speak. We're not using an agency and a nonprofit who received a cut of that salary from the grant. So we were able to offer a higher salary to be able to attract a more quality candidate. So, and we've been successful. So
This is really
we're
good
very
news.
excited.
Yeah. Kate, thank you for your effort on this as well. Questions, anyone?
No, I think it's a very excellent thing.
Mr. Chief?
We have to, Justin, do we have to do a motion on this?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
But before you do that, can I just say one thing,
Please,
Mr. Chair?
please.
Obviously commend Kate and Deputy Chief Palladini for the work on this, but I do want to particularly, commend the police department and Deputy Chief Palladini, because one of the things when I first came aboard here, she's really been a champion of this issue. This is one of the first things we talked about when I first came on. She's really been out in front on this, and I think our police department exemplifies how great we have. You guys have seen some of the comments about how police have responded. This is a vital position, and I really want to commend Deputy Chief Palladini for her work regarding this and the fact that we're able to secure grants and find a quality candidate in this tough market. We have someone who's ready to take this position, so I just wanted to say that briefly.
That's even better.
A very, very qualified candidate.
Awesome, very exciting.
Well, your passion for this is not a surprise. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the intermunicipal agreement for the co-response clinician position in partnership with Rentham and Plainville.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. That is great news. Kate, thank you again.
Mr. Chair, we've had a good gambit of
more good news.
departments showing
More
up for
good
the board
news.
today. We'll have Fire Chief Kinney come up and talk about this real quick. But in the board's packet, you have a copy of a grant award. I'll let Chief Kinney speak to it because he worked diligently with his colleagues to secure this FEMA grant, which is a substantial amount. So I'll let him speak to it.
Always nice to come with a check, isn't it, Chief?
Yes. And grant is such a nice
know.
word, isn't it? A nice word, grant.
Well done, sir.
So we have been fortunate. The largest possible award that FEMA awards for AFG grants, we qualified for it. We hosted a regional grant with the town of Rentham. We are both in need of a new ladder truck. The fire chief in Rentham and I collaborated on this project because we both see the rising astronomical cost of fire apparatus these days, and we both thought it would not be fiscally responsible to try to find a way to address the needs we both have, but do it collectively and kind of in a regional format. So this grant is our first stab at doing that. And the grant is in total $1.1 million. There is some ancillary costs for us as the two towns participating together. We will have to split the match, which is required, which is $100,000. So each town would be responsible for $50,000. And as an indication of how expensive fire apparatus is getting, $1.1 million doesn't cover it. So we're going to have to come up with the remaining balance. The total cost of the project is estimated to be around 2.25 to 2.5 million for the new ladder truck. So we would be responsible in total. We would be 700,000 plus the 50 for the match, which is still an enormous discount because we are looking to, the apparatus we're looking at, fits the demographics of both communities. It's also an apparatus that this town of Franklin purchased one that's going to be very similar so that we have that common sheet of music operationally because we all operate together. And what we did, and one of the reasons we put this forward is because right now the way the staffing models are in the two towns, we respond to Rentham for everything that they have fire-related, and they come to us for every single thing fire-related. So we felt like it was a good match and a good fit for us to house and staff that vehicle and send it to Rentham when they need it. And then when we need it here, we'll have it and respond with it as well. Obviously there's going to be some things we work out in terms of MOUs and those kind of things, but, we're excited about this. Chief Maria and I have talked several times. We're very excited and kind of chomping at the bit to get working on this. We both feel like it's a great force multiplier and a great opportunity for the two towns to come together to do a regional project, and hopefully it can be a model for how we may be able to move forward with some other initiatives on a regional basis to help, save costs to the taxpayers in both communities.
Great move, Chief. Thank you.
Sure.
And they're going to get a brand-new fire station to put it in.
Yes, sir. Excited about that.
Questions, anyone?
Are you planning on doing this with other fire apparatus vehicles?
So for the ladder truck, it works because it is kind of a specialized piece of equipment. For day-to-day, like for engines, for example, you can't really do that.
How about a
because they
tanker
go-
truck, though? That's sort of a specialty vehicle as well.
Well, we have a new tanker, so they also have a new tanker on order. The tanker, kind of yes and no. We use our tanker as a backup engine a lot when one of our other engines is out. So, but where there are opportunities to regionalize, I can see like a rescue truck, for example. Neither one of us probably could justify the need for one independently, but if we shared one, it would make sense, right? So any of those type of things that are more specialized, that aren't, like the engines are running constantly all day, so we can't really regionalize that. That's a constant mover, right? The ladder's going to move a lot, but, it's not the every single response is an engine, right? Well, the ladder's not going to be in every single response. It's going to be in every single response that involves a building or an actual fire in a building, but it's not going to be running the medicals and those kind of things. So that makes sense and is effective for us to regionalize or share. The other apparatus, not so much. I mean, potentially down the road, I do foresee a tanker being something we could share because both of our non-hydrogen districts are shrinking. Right now, I think we're down to about 19 or 20% of our town that doesn't have hydrants. So we definitely need the tanker, but I foresee by the time it's ready to be replaced, we won't need it anymore the way we need it now. And the same with Rentham. We'll both be in a place where, we may not need those in the future, but, the engines, the ladders, those things are always going to be a need for them. But anything, that we can look to regionalize from the standpoint of apparatus and resources that make sense for us to share, we're absolutely on board to doing that. And this is one of those projects where we're really looking for that to springboard us or launch us into looking at more initiatives where we can do that to help benefit both towns.
Now, you're referring to a rescue truck. What do you mean by that?
A vehicle that has things like if we had a train derailment, it'd have specialized equipment in it for something like that, or going to the interstate for Rentham to 495 or those kind of things. Again, we have very few needs for that. We have some equine type rescue stuff that we have had to do where that could be beneficial to us, and different things like that. But, the need isn't there from each district's point of view, but if it was a shared resource where, we could have one vehicle that responds to both towns for those instances, it would kind of make sense, and also not force all of the expense on one town. But again, that's not on either one of our radar screens. I think our primary responders are most.
Do they have a rescue themselves?
No. Neither town does. The only rescue right now that is close in proximity to us is Franklin. And that's because we kind of don't need it. We don't really need it. We've been able to get through and do what we need to do from the standpoint of the technical rescue side of things and that nature, with what we have. And the way we outfit our engines, they have more compartment space than typical for that reason, so we don't have to buy another truck, because when you have trucks, it doesn't necessarily mean that, we got to have somebody in it to get it to where it needs to go, right? So we don't want to, if we have a specialized truck for everything that we do, then there's going to be no continuity, and you're going to be jumping from truck to truck every day, all day. So now our engines do pretty much everything, from medical responses to vehicle accidents to, technical rescue. Both of our engines, both ours and Rentham's first out engines, are equipped similarly. We carry rescue equipment on there to do extrication. We carry a small sampling of ropes and things like that for basic stuff. And then we have some more specialized equipment that we put on our special hazards for those cases when we need it. But again, there's not really a demand right now for something like that. And like I said, we actually are, we partnered with Franklin on regional grants before. We are partnering with Franklin, or there's plans for a small rescue task force to be put together, which for us would mean having trained personnel that will join up forces with the communities to provide some services. But again, that's still in the early planning phase.
We don't have too many mountains we have any rescue.
No. Things we look at from a technical rescue standpoint are going to be things like swift water, and we have flash flooding. We have some low angle type stuff. We don't really have people out here window washing, hanging off the side of buildings, so we don't have, pick-offs and those kind of heavy technical incidents. But auto extrication is the biggest one. And then we do get into some equine rescue stuff with horses and things like that, which we rely on Hillary heavily to work with us in those situations, which works out good. So, that's where we are with that. The good thing is the ladder truck also will be able to carry some of that type of equipment, so we won't have a need necessarily to go that route for a rescue truck per se.
The last time you spoke to us about this, you mentioned that it would be housed in Norfolk, the ladder truck would
Yes.
be. Is this something that is kind of on a handshake with Rentham, or is there a written agreement about use and sharing?
So we had to have a draft MOU in order to procure the grant. So in your package, I believe there's a draft MOU just covers that we would be responsible for housing, but all costs associated with the vehicle in terms of maintenance and the annual testing and the fixed cost would all be split 50-50 with Rentham. And we also have already began preliminary talks about when Rentham has adequate staffing or they're riding heavy, as we say, which really doesn't exist, but when they have an extra person on shift, that they would dedicate that person to come support us in staffing that vehicle, which is, again, it's another step in moving towards kind of a regional concept with some of these more specialized pieces of equipment or services that we are called on to provide, but they aren't necessarily a everyday, all-day type of event. So we can, kind of share those resources and costs.
Thank you.
Kevin? Just curious what happens to the old truck.
So by law, the old ladder truck our ladder truck has to be taken out of service. I have pursued or looked at what potential trade value may be, and I was told flat out by 2 used fire apparatus brokers that truck has little or no value to them, and they won't even entertain take because of its age. So I'm going to try to do what I can to get a little money out of it if we can, but the way the federal grants are worded, we can't keep it as a reserve or a backup. We have to get rid of it. So it will be decommissioned and gotten rid of whenever the arrival of the new apparatus comes. Rentham is going to keep their ladder on board as a reserve piece so that neither one of us is completely without a ladder in the end. On the one-off that something's out of service or needs to be repaired, which does happen from time to time. So that will be maintained, so that we both still have access to an aerial device when we need it.
Okay. Any more questions? Justin?
No.
Chief, great job.
Thank you.
We'll take a $1.1 million check any day of the week.
All right. Awesome.
Well done.
Thank you.
So I move that we accept a FEMA assistance grant to FEMA assistant to firefighters grant and authorize the town administrator to sign any associated contracts.
Second, sir.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. You may have said it, and I just didn't hear it.
That's the case.
You're in my bad ear. Justin, Mr. Champagne, welcome.
Mr. Chair, obviously we have the Fire Station Building Committee Chair on it, but we also have our OPM, Stephen Kirby, who's appearing via Zoom as well. But we'll let Kevin speak to it, give you a fire station update.
We look forward to the big party.
Yes, we all do.
Bet you do.
It's getting.
Bet you do.
It's honestly been enjoyable. It's been a very good experience. I've been on the engineering side of fire stations before, and to be on the owner side has been kind of a neat experience to be in. So thank you to the select board for having us tonight. Steve put together a slideshow, which we'll walk through. I think you're going to control it, right, Steve? Can he?
I wasn't sure whether Amanda uploaded or not. I can share screen if necessary.
Okay.
Either way.
Either way is fine with me.
I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So you can probably skip past this slide, just a quick intro. So phase one, which is the construction of the new building, is nearly complete. We'll kind of go over the schedule briefly towards the end of the slideshow. But essentially the work that's going on right now is trying to finish all the interior work. A lot of the exterior siding, windows is all complete, but it's interior finishes, finishing up HVAC equipment, finishing up ceiling tiles, painting, that sort of thing. Things that probably when people drive by, they think the building's done, but there's a lot still going on inside. Next slide. So a little bit more, the storefront entries are being installed, lightning protection was being reworked for some electrical review comments. Above ceiling work has been approved and furniture is being installed. So again, just kind of trying to fit out the rest of the building before it gets officially handed over to the fire department. So we put together a few slides here. So the slide just before this one was the original rendering that was submitted as part of the project. And so this is a shot of the newly painted building. Obviously the site work is still underway. Overhead doors are installed. Next slide. Some shots of the interior, the training room, cabinetry in, the front lobby. So elevators installed, front doors, panic alarms are installed, ceilings and lighting is going in. And I will say that, so the fire station building committee, we had a tour in July. The building was still, the apparatus bay was still filled with a lot of construction work. So even since July, it's come a long way. We have another walkthrough planned in September before our next meeting on September 11th. But you can see the apparatus bays coming along nicely. They're finishing up some of the above apparatus work and the exhaust systems. Next slide. Ongoing work in the turnout gear room. Above overhead, there's still some HVAC equipment that's going in and being tested. Next slide. Kitchen casework and appliances, so that the kitchen and oven and cooking apparatus is all being installed in cabinetry. This is a view of one of the typical dorm rooms. So twin size bed, pretty relatively bare bones, but certainly better sleeping quarters than they have now.
And memorialize the trailer just for the heck of it?
Well, I don't remember if we still have the slide in here, but they have taken parts of the old building and built kind of a nice accent building column, I think is a memory. They're not keeping any parts of the trailer, but the building, certainly. So this is the emergency management and shift commander war room. And then a view of Chief Kinney's office. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the deputy chief, and then this is Chief Kinney's office. And then a view of the admin area, and then looking out the stairway down to the lobby. And this is the day room being fitted out with furniture. Oh. So, like I said, we have another walkthrough coming up in September. The department should be kind of moving in during that time that we're out there. Certainly, if the select board would like to have a time to walk through the building, we can organize that. But as far as looking ahead in the schedule, we're wrapping up phase 1. So they'll continue painting, exterior painting, interior painting, starting up the HVAC equipment, testing and balancing, basically kind of getting the last steps involved to get architect and engineer approval, HJ approval, get to substantial completion so that the department can start moving in. And then once that occurs, some of the data, TEL data, will all start to be moved over. I won't go through all these dates, but generally speaking, over the next few weeks, there's some kind of critical timelines that have to be hit with those inspections and approvals, but we anticipate they will all be hit based on our conversation with the contractor. And the department will start moving in the week of September 9th, which everyone is very excited about. Once the department is moved in, then phase 2 of the project will start, which is going to be demolition of the existing building and then finalizing the site work. The contractor schedule did slip a little bit. They're probably about 6 to 8 weeks behind right now. No fault of the town. The contractor has been picking up their own overtime, paying their subs overtime as necessary to try and recapture that schedule as much as possible. But at this point, there may be some landscape items that get done in the spring, but in general, we're still targeting largely being complete by the end of this year. we did update the mass incentives for the Path 1 Zero Net Energy. What we will get basically upfront from Mass Save is $2 a square foot at the end of construction. That amounts to about $50,000. The incentives have increased a little bit since we first presented this way back in kind of the feasibility study phase. The second part of that is the committee is actually bringing on a consultant to basically monitor the building for a year. And if we do that and it meets all the incentives, we get an extra $1.50 a square foot, which is basically another $40,000. The estimated fee for the consultant is about $6,000, so definitely seems well worth it, but we're going to vote on that officially as a committee at our next meeting. Project budget. So the budget continues to be in good shape. We had 3 contingency buckets when we started the project. Construction contingency, soft cost contingency, and owner contingency. I'm just going to flip to this page so that I don't have to keep turning around. The construction contingency number shows about $800,000 as spent. What I will say is only $160,000 of that is actually committed. The remainder is, we were starting to make some design decisions a few months back during the construction of the building, and we said, okay, worst case scenario, how much money will we have left over when this project ends? And so Vertex went through and basically tried to, worst case scenario, really the biggest unknowns that are left are with phase 2, tearing down the existing building if there's additional hazardous material uncovered. We have additional utilities that still need to be put in, so we said, what if there was ledge every linear foot of utility that goes in? That essentially accounts for the remaining, we'll call it $600,000 of worst case scenario estimation for the construction contingency. So what we feel of the $600,000 that will be remaining at the end of the project, we feel is probably a low-end estimate, and we're certainly aiming to be higher than that. So, as I said, the project continues to be in good financial shape. And I think that basically completes the update.
Will you have a formal christening of the station?
So we haven't discussed that formally as a committee. We'll try and weigh if it makes sense to have that while phase 2 is going on, or if it makes sense to kind of have the whole project complete, but we plan to discuss that. But again, if the select board would like to tour it, I know I've had members of the planning board also reach out that they would like to take a look at it as well. We can certainly get you in before the ribbon cutting.
I would love one.
That sounds awesome.
Sure.
Yeah. Count us in.
Great. Any other questions?
The only thing I'm going to say is I remember it doesn't seem that long ago when we were picking our fire station building committee and just being so excited by the talent that we had at our disposal in doing the work. And here we are. And so exciting, so grateful for you and for the committee and the work that you've done. And especially for those numbers that you just showed us are really great. We had some trust to regain, and your committee and your team has done really nice work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Like I said, it's been a pleasure to be on the committee. Chief, Justin, everybody's been fantastic to work with. It has been a really, I'd say, very committed committee. That's probably a bad turn of phrase, but there's quite a bit of experience on it, and I think having Vertex and Doran Whittier on board as well, I mean, certainly it's been a smooth, no project is going to go completely smoothly, but it's probably gone about as smoothly as possible. The contractor, beyond falling behind a little bit, has been tremendous to work with. Very, very understandable. Any changes that came up really were kind of taken in stride. So all around it, I think a great team effort.
Well, thank you.
Well-managed plan, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you, sir.
Ready to move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin and Steve. Excuse me, Mr. Chair, the next agenda item is a potential article for a fall town meeting. I'll have our DPW Director, Blair Crane, speak to it. with a little information in your pack, but we'll let Blair speak to it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Don't have any grant news, but so it's it's a tough room tonight, but
You consider this a little information?
it's just
We want to be robust.
that's
what Blair
56
does.
pages of light reading.
I know, I read it today, and I said, well, good thing you didn't give the detail.
Oh yeah, exactly. This is just a summary. So I'll give you just a quick summarization of how we got where we are tonight. About 6 months ago, I was approached by a realtor who was representing the owner of 53 Mill River Road, parcel of land which is just over 6 acres and is currently undeveloped. Being that there is no road frontage there, and the fact that the water department currently owns a parcel to the north and a parcel to the east of this parcel, as well as Franklin Water owning the parcel to the west and to the northwest. The current owner of the property thought that the town may be interested in it. Taking that onus, I thought to start to look into the history of that. This topic has been, about putting a well in that area, has been kicked around since 1995. I went back and looked at some of the old director's emails and some transmittals between the two towns. Was again thought of in 2005 with a little more thought, but never really went anywhere. So with that history, I had commissioned an appraisal to try to get an idea of what the value of the property was worth, and which is the 56-page document in front of you. It comes out to be $135,000 is the assessed value of that property. So with that, kind of comes around to, asking the board whether or not they feel as though this is something worthwhile to take a look at, and if so, move it forward to town meeting. I will add that one of the hot button topics and questions that I would imagine you're wondering is if there are any PFAS in the area, since it could possibly be a water source down the road. And the only way I can really judge that at this point is I talked to Franklin about it, because they have a well that is extremely close. Literally, this property abuts the town line, and their well is just on the other side. They actually have 2 wells, but they are both under the 4 parts per trillion threshold. So that's PFAS, and these 2 particular locations in Franklin are not on their radar whatsoever. So I have no reason to believe that this parcel of land is affected as well.
Now, question, would there be a problem with Norfolk putting their well so close to theirs?
No, because when this was all kicked around in 95 and in 2005, there was talk about, with DEP, about either joining them up, because the only real way to get out of there, you only have 2 options. You can either go up and come in Miller Street, which has an existing water main already, or you could try to come all the way up Main Street past Camger, which would be a much more daunting line to get all the way. Our town water only goes as far as Park Street at the top of the hill. So it makes sense to do something in conjunction with Franklin there, where you could essentially use it as a redundant source, connect with their 2 wells and be essentially right on Miller Street. And then you could figure out engineering-wise how you would, get water from one way or the other. It would never be a primary source, kind of like Holbrook Street is for us. It's a redundant well source. So that would be the cost-effective measure to do it that way. I mean, we'd all love to have a great water main past Camger, because it would allow for fire service and have water service down that end of town. But at this juncture, I don't think it's cost-effective to do it that way.
Do we have any connectivity with Franklin? I know we do with Rentham.
We don't.
Yeah.
Well, I say it this way. There is a connection off of Silver Fox, but we can't use it because the town of Franklin puts fluoride in their water, and we don't. So depending on how bad of a situation you might be in, I suppose you could make the exception for that, or DEP would make that exception. But right now, if we have an issue, and we haven't in years, we draw from Rentham.
Is the well that is there, the Franklin well, is that the well that has the relationship with Kingsbury Pond?
So there's two wells there. There's, wells 5. 5 is the well field that they have that is immediately to the west, which does not affect that particular aquifer. And then the one right off of Miller, which is their well 4, is the one that is associated with that issue.
And which well are we talking about here?
The one that we would put in on this piece of land would be closer to the one not affected. But all of the data that came back from 2005, because they did look into this pretty heavily, they had talked about 750,000 gallons a minute, which is a pretty good draw, with the ability to possibly double that under a rare case scenario. So it's a great source for water. There's a lot of water there. You can get into how it affects Kingsbury Pond, and I'm not saying that tomorrow we would go there. At this juncture, it wouldn't be my first choice, but it's hard to envision what our water needs are going to be 30 years from now. Yeah. And with this piece of property sitting essentially in without road frontage and being undevelopable, it seems like a good investment from the water department.
And I know at some point in the future, DPW is going to need some investments in new facilities. You're down at the bottom of the barrel and have been for some time, and you really don't have any land to expand on, especially with the tanks in the back. And you're restricted on one side, and you've got the landfill on the other. Well, I shouldn't say landfill, but recycling center on the other side, and the solar panels. So you're restricted really where you can go. 6 acres is a pretty good parcel of land. That's a good chunk of land.
The worst problem with that would be that its location, right? It's as far away from town as you could possibly be.
True. But you could expand.
Oh, sure.
It's an abutting piece, so
absolutely.
You'd be in a good position to expand.
Absolutely.
Would it be at all viable for a solar facility? I know it's pretty heavily wooded.
Yeah, it is. There's a little bit there's some wooded sections there. This piece is more open than the 2 parcels that we currently own. I've walked it extensively, and it's the kids love to go back there with dirt bikes, and there's a bunch of that going on. But especially this piece in particular, you could do something with solar. I just would be fearful of locking ourselves into a position where down the road we need it. And,
it's a different discussion. I'm just
I wouldn't go for a conservation land type of use at more of an open space.
Yeah. When you're looking at any purchase, you want to maximize whatever flexibility you have and whatever uses might have. So it's kind of fun to think through what the fun's the wrong word, but it's advantageous to think the different uses you might have for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
No, not at this time.
So your request is to put an article on the town warrant to see if the town's willing to go forward with this?
Yes.
Am I got that one right?
Correct. Yes, you are.
Okay.
So, I've had preliminary talks with the Realtor. No offer has been made. No numbers have been discussed.
It's landlocked.
Right. I wanted to have this discussion with the board before, even contemplating proceeding with any sort of negotiation or discussion. So, if the board wasn't on board with this, then there's no point in investing more time.
Franklin has access to this land and Norfolk does, but no one else, right?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, there are abutters in front of it that technically could buy it to, enhance their own, parcel, but from any sort of usage perspective, it's 6 acres that with no road frontage.
So what's the pleasure of the board? Should we keep it moving?
Well, I think it's just a discussion item, yes, so.
You're looking for a sense, he's requested a sense from the board as to whether or not we're willing to at least continue to consider this.
Yes.
I think it makes sense to consider it. I think back pocket. I definitely have concerns about Kingsbury I live in that area, so
absolutely.
I'd hate to see Kingsbury shrink more than it already has. But I think it makes sense in terms of proactive thinking about our water needs in the future.
There was, and part of this, to your point, Anita, was that there was discussion as I researched this about how Franklin was going to only draw water from their well 4, which is the one closest to Kingsbury, during the winter months when the level of Kingsbury was unaffected for the most part, or at least users weren't out there.
Right.
Swimming and boating and doing whatever in the pond, fishing. But, and then, to alleviate some of that angst, I have no idea whether or not any of that ever came to fruition, but that was part of the discussions almost 20 years ago. So like I said, I've researched this pretty extensively.
Okay. Well, it seems like a good, at least, back pocket item for right now, and I think it's worthwhile to move forward with the conversation.
You concur?
Yeah, I do.
I think you have a unanimous, let's keep it moving.
Okay, I will report back to the board when I have more information.
Great.
Thank you.
Chair, the next agenda item is a
Lindmark.
financial update from our finance director. We'll talk about the year-end financial review, but I've also asked Todd to just give you a quick update on some other financial matters. We're getting to the fall, we're getting to fall town meeting, et cetera. So just to give you a quick update regarding finances.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi, Todd.
Excellent. We're on the revenues. So similar to last time when I gave the update. Again, it's a comparative of the projected revenues as of June 30th, 2024. And then the next page we'll talk about in a second is comparative with the revenues and the expenses, how we finished out the year for 2024. Still finalizing a couple of numbers, some accruals and things of that sort for the various departments. So working on getting the DLS required balance sheet and submission for free cash, which I expect in the next couple of weeks to be completed, a little bit ahead of schedule of last year. So with revenues, tax receipts, personal property, real estate, exempts, pretty much all came in as anticipated. We have a slight under of about $27,000 in total. That's probably because of some additional monies that were made payments in early July. That'll be captured, obviously, next year's revenues that have been applicable for this current year. So I'm not overly concerned about that amounts. Moving on to local receipts, there's about four items I want to highlight here. Motor vehicles excise, we budgeted $1,915,000, and the number came in at $2,147,000. So we increased by about $232,000 there.
A lot of new cars purchased in town this year, huh?
I believe so. And then transfer station, we budgeted $275,000. They came in at $271,000, so closing that gap on that revenue amount year over year. Last year was a little bit bigger. They had $250,000, and they actually had $301,000 last year. So a little bit more sales of some materials and things of that sort, but they're still tracking very well overall. And the expenses came in line under budget of what they anticipated as well. Licenses and permits, we budgeted $485,000, and people did a lot of building permit fees. We had $903,000 that we received there, so extra $418,000 over budget. And then investment income, and this has a lot to do with the monies that we had for the fire station bonding, and we also moved a lot of other monies into the higher yield of the 4.5% bank accounts that were available for us versus the 0.001 that were available to us previously. So that worked out to our benefit there. We came in about $460,000 over what we anticipated. All in total, revenues were about 1.479 more than what we had budgeted for. State aid came in basically as anticipated. No major concerns there. Overall, we have about a $2,000 difference between the state aid revenues and the actual assessment expenses associated with that. And then the transfers, we utilized almost $160,000 in free cash, and then $944,000 in ARPA funds to balance out the fund. Included in some of the miscellaneous revenues, again, the miscellaneous revenues came in at $514,000 in the local receipts at the bottom there versus the $225,000 that we budgeted for. Part of the $225,000 that we budgeted for was $200,000 of prison mitigation. Prison mitigation came in just shy of $260,000. We also had a house sale, which contributed just shy of $200,000 to that amount. And then with the Next Grid lease arrangement for our solar field that's up off of Pond Street there at the water towers, we have $100,000 that we received there. So that's kind of the revenues. Any questions on the revenues? Next page is the revenues and expenditures. Again, the revenues at the top, differentials between what we received for actuals versus budgeted, again, was about almost $1.5 million. Highlighted some of the major contributors to that 1.5. Expenditures, we came in total, we had almost a little over $900,000 turnback. And what does turnback mean? It means we budgeted X dollars, and we had more dollars that were available to be utilized that just weren't utilized during the year because expenses came in lower than what we anticipated or not utilized as intended. So about $900,000 overall in totals being turned back to be used for free cash certification this year. A lot of the public safety came in 99% usage, education almost 100%, public works 90%. So again, there's nothing that cries, hey, we have an issue here or something to be concerned about. Obviously, we do need to be mindful. When we did the budget this year, everything was a little bit tighter and we kept expenses a little bit as tight as possible. Moving forward, we just have to be cognizant of that as a going forward issue, especially, depending on how bad the snow is. Where'd Blair go? If we have to do a lot of extra snow removal this year or what have you. Luckily, past few years, we haven't had to really incur a lot of expenses on snow. Any questions on the overall results for the town as of June 30th?
Nope.
No?
Mr. Chair and Todd, can I just say one quick thing regarding that? I know I've already had some of our select board members ask us about free cash and different things like that. I think you can read between
my mind.
You can read between the lines here. We had another strong year. I think with fiscal discipline on town government side, I took opportunities to commend departments. I want to commend the department heads. I want to commend Todd. It was a good fiscal year closeout. But as Todd mentioned, with the past budget that we did, things are a lot leaner, right? We reduced our budgets and we kept growth small. That does impact free cash in future years as well. So these are things we have to be mindful of. I just want to point out, I think we had a very strong fiscal year end. I think we'll see that reflected when you ask again about free cash and so forth moving forward. But it's something to be mindful about this budget and budgets moving out as well. But I do want to commend Todd and all our department heads for the work. We made a message, let's keep things as tight as possible, especially closing out. So I think we did a good job.
That has to be one of the best proclamations of finesse for not spending any more money than you want to. I've ever heard about it. Well done. We have it, but don't spend it. We need to consider some stabilization contributions here as well.
Talking about that, Todd will mention as we get to fall town meeting.
So in the next couple of weeks, like I said, I'll be finishing up with the DLS for submission of free cash certification. Once that becomes certified, the next week or so, I'm going to be sending out emails to the department heads to start to put together the capital budget plan. And then Justin and I, over the next couple of weeks in September, towards the end of September, we'll have discussions with those department heads regarding the capital requests. And then obviously come up with the transfers, which would typically include contributions to the stabilization funds, contribution to the OPEB fund, transfer requests, because with the opioids, we had about $45,000 last year. 20 of it was utilized through the select board expenses this year, so that's about balance just shy. It was a little bit around 40,000, just shy of $20,000 that has to transfer to the opioid stabilization fund that's been established. All the monies that came in this year go right into the stabilization fund, so we don't have to worry about the opioid monies from this fiscal year. It's the ones that were in 23, because we didn't have the stabilization account in 23, so we need to transfer those monies into the stabilization fund.
Or appropriate them.
Or appropriate, depending, what you want to do, but That's just something to be aware of. And then the last item I just kind of wanted to talk about is the Tri-County coming up, because the assessment this year, our net debt service, based on the new debt that they're taking on, it was about a $32,000 impact, and we absorbed that through the regular assessment. I anticipate that the 2026 assessment, based on what they projected and all the numbers are still current as of today, we're approaching about $372,000 that we have to be figuring out. So just wanted to be mindful of that. I know we're running numbers for school expansion. Tri-County's already done deal, so we need to be mindful of that as well. And I think that's all I have to report. Any
One thing we
questions?
like to say about the Tri-County, $372,000 is something that it would be very difficult to incorporate that into our operating budget like we did this year. So I think we have to come up with a strategy on how we want to approach that. And I think you'll hear a bit more from Todd and myself about that in the fall as we move forward. Because that's what I'll say at the moment. I don't know if Todd wants to expand.
I have
You
some
can read
thoughts on
between the
that.
lines.
I have some thoughts on that too, so we'll spend some time on it.
The board and all of us will talk about it, I'm sure.
No surprise there, huh?
Nope.
No. Todd, thank you.
No problem.
Questions, anybody? No.
Thank you for your work.
No.
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Todd.
My favorite topic.
We've kicked this can before.
A midnight trip with a tractor would just be about perfect for this, I think. Old Town Hall. I don't know how you guys feel about this, you folks feel about this. We've tried 2 different times to bring articles forward to take down that building. And both times, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why. We had the money set aside, it was budgeted, and we got turned down.
I personally would like to be able to go down and look at the building before I make a decision on it.
Anytime.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to make a decision today.
But yes, I agree with you. I think even maybe Anita would like to get down with me or just see the building.
I have been through it.
Right.
So,
Yes,
careful.
I'd be happy, yes. I think that it is at the end of its life. And so I guess if we're hearing from the community that they don't want to tear it down, I don't know if we have something else to offer them that would be more palatable.
well, I think, I remember one time that when we put the article on, there was, people connect dots that aren't there. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but there were those that were connecting dots that we were tearing it down to do something that they didn't want. And I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't the case. And no matter how we tried, we couldn't seem to get that myth off the table. It's the only piece of land the town owns in the B1 district that isn't currently occupied. It's the only piece we have. I'm not proposing any use for it. I'm not thinking of any use for it. I'm not suggesting any use for it. What I am suggesting is it is a danger. It is a hazard. There are more animals living in it than there are out of it, and when you go through it, you'll see that. True. I mean, it's a colony in there. I went through it not too long ago. It is a colony. It's dangerous. Kids can get in it. Anything can happen. Not to mention an eyesore. And if we do tear it down, there's a parcel next to it that we also own, which combined to that property. I don't know what it may or may not be used for. Who knows?
Well, I think the other parcel was turned over to conservation, so I don't think.
Whatever. I'm not proposing a use. I'm proposing to get it down because it's a hazard and an eyesore. And I worry about somebody living in there or moving in there or, who knows? These things do happen. Anyway, just my opinion.
Have our public safety folks weighed in on it?
Public safety, I wouldn't say Chief Hines I have not specifically asked Chief Hines or Chief Kinney how they feel about particularly the demolition. I do know, particularly speaking with our facilities director, Matt Mallers, we have a budget that we put in the operating budget for, I wouldn't say maintenance, but for different things, boards and different things like that. We've had some vandalism there. We've had kids go in there, break down. So I do know that from Chief Hines. I know that from Matt Malnerich. It's about $2,000 operating budget that we align for that. And we do expend some of those things because we've had to put boards up to
It was a fire escape that had to come down.
So we've done work regarding that. I can specifically ask them how they feel about this. But Amanda actually did some very good work. We were looking up to find some of these articles. I was trying to dig up to see the last time I was on town meeting, but there actually was a discussion about this in 2021. And what I'll do is I'll forward the board. There was a memo regarding that. They contemplated doing some work to see what the cost of demolition would be. That was never followed up on.
Correct.
And so forth. So I have some information that I can give the board. And, obviously, we're looking at town center sewer. There was a contemplation about that being a pump station and different. There's a variety of things there. I'll give the board the information that we were able to glean. And I appreciate Amanda and them going in the Rolodex to help us find some of this information. We'll get it to the board.
My point when I say I don't have a defined use is that it is not a usable piece in its condition.
Yes.
That's my point.
Yes.
And so if there were some use that came up, and I think, if you remember the old, on Boardman Street, the recreation park there that they had for kids, Kids Place, it was called Kids Place. That property was purchased, if I recall, in 1957 by the town with no intended purpose for it whatsoever, none. And then many, many years later, Recreation took it over and made it a delightful park called Kids Place for the use of the town. Now, since it's moved over, into the old Gumps Farm area and become an even a bigger complex for that. But, when you have land available to you at some point in the future, boards probably long before hours or after hours, something will come up where we have a need. And to have a parcel of land that is usable, to me, is of value to the community. And you could easily say, well, we could tear it down then. It may not be quite that simple. And having it accessible, for whatever purposes, parking, whatever. There are a lot of interim uses that land could be used for. But I just feel strongly that this needs to go down. I worry about it as a hazard for people trying to get in there. Kids are curious. It's their nature. And I know kids have gotten into it in the past.
Yes.
Which is why you continue to board it up and took down the fire escape years ago.
Yes.
I think that was like 2-3 years ago. So anyway, doesn't have to. It's a conversation piece, something, but I would personally favor putting an article and finding out, see if we can get some guesstimate as to what the cost might be. I know there's asbestos in there. I do know that.
That's documented.
It's not a burn option, if you will. Plus, it's pretty heavily wooded on the other side. I don't think I'd recommend that.
Is it technically condemned? It's not a condemned site.
Oh, I think it could easily be a condemned site.
But like I said, Amanda was able to dig up something from 2021 that provides a good amount of information.
Okay.
Let me do that. I do know from what I've researched, there wasn't much movement beyond that conversation. What I can do is try to dig up as much information for the board so you have it for your next meeting, whenever you decide that.
Yeah, and I know we're getting down to the end of the wire here. It's just, this seems to get lost all the time. If it gets pushed to the May meeting, it gets pushed to the May meeting. But I do wish we'd give it some serious consideration.
Well, after I go take a walk through, and if I feel, it's just my opinion, but if I feel the building is worthy of being demolished, why don't we have somebody, a builder or somebody, just say that, or just come in and evaluate, and if the structure is unsound, then we'll have more information for the demolition of the building.
Sure.
Yes, I think it's unsound. I think that's unequivocally unsound.
We clearly got to get it, we clearly need professional information.
Yes.
I can sit here and look at it and go, I think this is it, and I have no clue.
Right, well, that's why I wanted to look at it, and I think a professional, or even the building inspector, his personal opinion, if he feels the building's unsound.
I think for your next meeting, now that I know that there's at least interest from the board in looking at it, we'll have Bob, because like I said, when it was discussed with the select board in 2021, Bob, Rich, and the town administrator presented to the board some information. I'll have some more information there.
So at least,
coordinate with Bob. You'll have more information. to
so at
help
least
you.
there's a willingness to
Perfect.
consider and take a
Yes,
look at it.
absolutely.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking. Okay, great.
I know what
Thank
I have
you.
to do.
All right. Actually, we're quick on this. I've received everybody's information. I will be getting with Justin before our next meeting. And I thank you all for getting it done as promptly as you have. Kevin, I know you're behind the 8 ball, and we talked about it today, so I appreciate the way you're approaching it as well. I mean, I say behind the 8 ball in that, it's kind of hard to evaluate anybody when you've known them for, 3 weeks. It's a tough evaluation. So you've handled it appropriately, and I appreciate that, and thank you. And Anita, yours I got as well, so thank you for that. And mine is done, and Justin has completed one on himself as well, so we're moving along with that. And you're going to have some people coming in September, I believe, to do some sort of reviewing of how to continue on through with your department heads.
Yes.
Right, good, okay. Move on from that one. Justin, you want, go ahead.
I was going to go to the next.
Go for it.
In the board, you have a packet. Amanda worked on the calendar. We looked at, part of the genesis was, one, we're moving into the fall, so we always typically do this. But we looked at, the potential of moving some of our dates for select board meeting, and there's just too many conflicts. But we did put some potential movement dates, whether they're holidays or different things in there. So you have a calendar in there with some dates, some proposed dates. So I propose running through the months and just locking down these dates, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
All right, so September, typically we would meet.
Will you stop addressing me as Mr. Chair?
I just typically do that. It doesn't matter. I did it with Anita, I did it with Kevin, that's how I
No,
typically do it.
just please. I've been called that more tonight than I have in the last 18 years,
All right,
please.
okay.
Thanks.
In September, you would typically meet the 3rd and the 17th, but the 3rd is the day after Labor Day. And I think the board, when we last talked about, there wasn't really an appetite to meet then. So there's two options here. You can meet September 4th, and that would be in person. There is no conflict on that date. Or you can meet the 10th, but that would be a Zoom option. And then we propose keeping the 17th, which would be the typical time. And we have to keep the 17th because we need to execute the warrant on the 17th.
And then we would go to the regular Tuesday schedules in October.
Yep.
And then in November, you've got, because of Election Day, you've moved that to Wednesday and then the Tuesday.
Either the Wednesday or Monday.
We have to do the 19th because of the tax hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a given.
Yep. And then December, it's the same thing. We would propose the 3rd and the 17th. I'll highlight later for the board why potentially 16th, but typically it'd be the 1st and 3rd Tuesday. In January, we have the 1st and...
So September is really the only one you're looking for.
September and November, because of Election Day.
All right. I will defer to you two folks because they're all okay with me.
I'm fine with the 4th. I'd rather meet in person than on Zoom, so I'm fine with the 4th.
Yes, I definitely like the 4th.
We're in agreement.
There you go.
Okay, that was easy.
And then in November, Monday or Wednesday is fine with me, so it's basically Kevin, whatever your druthers.
I can't do Monday, actually, now that I think of it. The 1st and the 3rd Mondays are school committee meetings.
So the 6th and 19th in November? That's fine with me.
Can we do that?
Yep.
You like Wednesdays?
Wednesdays are good for me.
Okay. And then in December, again, I have the same
Yeah.
issue on the Monday.
Yep, there we go. Simple. And then January, we stick with the 1st and 3rd.
Okay. We all okay?
That sounds perfect to me.
Good.
As long as Amanda puts it on my calendar.
That was painless.
That was painless.
Thank you, Amanda, for putting the calendars together and making sure the rooms, we were looking at
Yeah,
all the
and
different
that's not
schedules.
easy. So thank you, Amanda. All right, sir, Town Administrator, the floor is yours, sir.
Just a few updates. I've had many people, and I know the board have given sporadic updates in terms of the community choice aggregation. So I did speak with Colonial Power as the board members. That was the group that we authorized to pursue municipal aggregation for the town. We recently heard somewhat disappointing news in the sense that, but it's news that we expected. The state changed their regulations regarding this. And so they're making us go back to the drawing board a little bit. They want us to propose an alternative plan using a template that they have now, well, they still haven't even put together, but they have a proposed template that they want our provider to utilize. So we're working with our provider to do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Colonial Power appear in person to give you an update at the September 17th meeting, just to say where we're at on community choice aggregation. We will comply with the new template because some communities can choose to utilize the old template, but they've been pretty transparent saying, well, we won't be doing the turnaround time of 120 days with that. There'll be a more robust finding period and so forth, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to hold this up any further, so we will utilize the template that they've had, that they've proposed, and we're trying to work proactively with them on that. Okay. So we are moving forward with that. It's just taking a little bit longer. But that original timeline, remember when we had asked about this, I said, I think it's going to be a year, 15 months. I think we're sticking with that timeline. So it's an update for community choice aggregation. Skip around a little bit here. I want to let the board know that, as you heard, for example, the $1 million for the FEMA grant, we've been really active in trying to get as many earmarks and grants as possible. We worked with Congressman Auchincloss once again to put a project proposal.
He's been very helpful.
In place for us. And once again, these are capital projects that we're going to fund. They're public safety particularly. So we worked with Chief Hines and Deputy Chief Palladini. We did a proposal for Norfolk Police radio equipment upgrades. We were able to get it past the House Appropriations Committee, a project of $380,000. It's not in hand yet. There's still a budgetary process, but I want to let you know we were one of those projects that made it to this next step. Generally, it's been good, but who knows with Washington, but $380,000 we secured in that next step. So I want to let the board know that Congressman Auchincloss and his team were very helpful in our police team in advocating for those funds.
May I interrupt you?
Yes.
We should include some of those exciting grants and successes in the newsletter, just so the community knows.
I think we want to talk about that because I do want to highlight, since I've been here, we've had well over $2.5 million in earmarks or grants or different things like that. Even in this past budget, we secured some more grant funding for the COA parking lot, as well as, some mitigation work we have to do for our dams and so forth like that. So we've been very aggressive. We've worked really tirelessly with departments to try to secure funds. So I think that's a great suggestion. And a quick update in terms of the Norfolk School Building Committee. Yesterday we met as a committee. We didn't have a full committee, so the committee did not take any vote. But we did talk about, essentially, that committee has narrowed two proposals in terms of consideration of recommending to the school committee and the town and select board. It's focused on modulars and a school expansion project. I'll let the committee give that update to the board in person, but one thing I want to let the board know is there's been a proposal for a joint committee in terms of the school committee and the select board. I think that is a great idea, one, so we can get the information together, but talk about this and any next steps regarding it. So in September, you'll see that sort of emerge before the select board, and there's a hope, if they proceed with a recommendation that they like to host community forums and different things like that. But I'll let the committee speak to the select board regarding that, and I expect that in September.
Can I just make one comment on that? And you and I had a chance to review that a little bit today. Just be sure, I'm all for it, 100% for it, but they need to follow the right process.
I had a conversation with the superintendent directly again today about this.
Okay, so, and they have to take certain steps. They're a recommending board, so they need to go to the school committee and then come to the board of select. Okay.
Yes.
Just want to be sure they know the process. Yep.
Spoken again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And our town clerk, Carol, she wanted us to make a mention that early voting starts this Saturday, and the hours for Saturday are 9 to 5. We have hours on our website, as well as I believe we have it on Facebook in terms of the early voting hours. So there's a primary, obviously, on September 3rd. So that notice from Carol, please take advantage of those early voting hours. And then the last thing is just briefly for the board, you guys received an email from Amanda, from Jeff Nutting for the Select Board Goal Setting Workshop. Just note the date of the last drop date to get that information, but he asked me to encourage you to get it as early as possible to him. There's a lot of work that I know the board wants to do.
Just got that today, didn't we?
It was this week.
Or was it yesterday?
It was this
Was it
week.
yesterday or today?
Yeah,
It wasn't today.
it was yesterday,
It was
yeah.
yesterday.
All right,
It was yesterday.
all right.
Now,
Because I haven't filled it out yet. I didn't want to be too late, that's all. All right, okay.
I was a little, I read some of the questions, and it was almost asking to answer a question for the board and not so much myself. What do you think the strength or weaknesses of the board are?
Yeah.
So I'm speaking for the board and not myself, or?
Well, you're speaking for both. It's a collective input.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think you bring to the table, and what do we as a body collaboratively bring to the table?
And what could we do better?
And, yeah. Or what do we need to stop doing? I mean, it's an internal view of how you and all of us work together.
Okay.
Harder when you haven't been on the board long. I know.
Right.
It's tougher.
Can I get a copy of last year's, the goals were set for last year's?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And if the goals were met or how they were met?
Okay. That's it for my updates.
I just have one. I attended the Rentham Select Board meeting last week. I requested to be on their agenda in reference to the questions they were raising concerning the shelter, so I thought it would be beneficial if I volunteered to join their meeting. I did. The chair was very receptive, which I am appreciative of. It was an interesting meeting. Clearly, we have different views on different things, but that's normal. I guess the important conclusion is that we want to make sure that each of us are aware that we work well together, that we're open to working together, and that we communicate. And I guess I kind of leave it at that. So it was an interesting meeting. I don't know how else to say it.
Okay.
There was one other thing, darn it, and it just skipped me. Isn't that terrible? Oh, well. Anita, please.
Is that okay?
Of course.
That gives you a chance to remember. So I was just wanted to share that Kevin and I attended the Fales Park dedication. That's what it was, is the dedication.
That's what the other thing was I was trying to remember. Thank you.
So we attended that. It was a very nice community, beautiful day, and it's just nice to see the community get together and really honor a remarkable woman. And so it was very nice, and I encourage people to go visit the park. It's really beautiful. It has a beautiful picnic table. You can see the lake. It's parking right out front, so I would encourage people to take advantage of that resource in our community.
Kevin, thoughts?
No, I went to it, and yeah, it was
Yep.
very nice ceremony.
Barbara Bartholomew was an incredible woman. She was what I always called her, the Norfolk historian. Her mind was just incredible. The memory and the information that was retained in that mind of hers was just outstanding. But she, even though she physically was having difficulty, her mind was as sharp as a tack, and she truly loved this town. She loved the open space, recreation. She had a passion for that, and we really did call her the town historian. Yeah, her mind was incredible, so yeah, it was very, very giving. I regret that I could not be here. I was not in town, but I did send a note and condolences, and well, not condolences, but congratulations. It's a wonderful thing to name after her. So.
Excellent. And I want, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think both you and I have some closing comments we want to make.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so I'll let you go first.
Awesome. I wrote down my thinking so I didn't wonder about. So, town government is unique. I'm saying this to the big crowd that we have here. Thank you, Donna. Town government is unique, and it's also very complicated and beautiful. As Select Board members, our charge is to meet the needs of our citizens by solving problems, managing resources wisely, looking for opportunities, and responding to a constantly changing landscape. We are guided by federal and state law as well as our own bylaws. We rely on an army of volunteers on a multitude of committees, as well as a dedicated and highly skilled group of town employees, department heads, and chiefs. Together, we solve problems large and small. This select board intentionally strives to collaborate in this work. As public servants, we are volunteers. We are three very different people, but each of us cares deeply for our town. So in May, when we learned of the plans to open the overflow shelter in Norfolk, we were very concerned about the impact to our community. We have collectively attended countless Zoom meetings, internal meetings, office hours, and site visits. We communicated with and through our town administrator and quickly agreed that public safety, education, and budget were our three highest priorities, and we have worked tirelessly to that end. That being said, we are also human, so we have felt compassion for our visitors as they have endured challenges we literally cannot imagine. Our compassion for our new visitors has not taken our eye off of our goals. Together, we have aggressively negotiated with the state to the advantage of our community. Because of our diligence and the exceptional efforts of our team, Norfolk has not only mitigated the impact of this decision, but we may even benefit from it. While it has sometimes been messy, we are very, very proud of this work. Our neighbors are also important partners in this work. They share questions, concerns, views, and facts that grow our thinking and help us understand different points of view. We include public comment opportunities into every meeting with intention. We know that together we are wiser, stronger. At our last meeting, the public comment period was used as a platform to mock the efforts of the board and our team. Comments also included personal, derisive statements. I have big feelings, as we call them at my house, about these accusations, but I would like to respond specifically to one remark. Our newest colleague was accused of not effecting change quickly enough and not safe. I take so much offense to this. First of all, these remarks they reflect an incredible lack of understanding of the scope of this role or how change works in local government. Kevin was elected a mere 16 weeks ago, and in that short time, he's been at town hall literally dozens of times, asking questions, sharing concerns and ideas. His passion for this town is palpable, and his interest in doing this work shows his efforts. Leadership can take many forms. Sometimes it talks a lot. I talk a lot. And sometimes it's quiet. The quality is not found in the number of words spoken. Thank you.
Anita, through Justin, had shared the comments that she wanted to make, and a lot of them reflect some of the feelings I have as well, so I won't bore everybody with a redundant statement, but I do want to just make a couple of comments on this. This has been an incredibly unusual 3-month period of time. People do not have the closest understanding of the amount of hours that a lot of people have worked on this. We have intentionally kept politics off of the table for us. I know that there are people in town that feel the only acceptable strategy is to prevent them from coming. I understand. I fully understand why they feel that way, but it was never an option for us. So to waste any energy or time or any of your time in our making those efforts would have been detrimental to the well-being of this town. And we chose not to do that. Whatever personal feelings we may have on, and we all have them, everyone has them, whatever personal feelings we have on political statements or political strategies, quite frankly, in the last 3 months has had no place on our table. We just could not afford the luxury of having those personal views. Being on this board as sort of the old-timer of it, there are many times where we have to put our personal feelings, our personal views, our personal philosophies on the table and make decisions that we as individuals, if given only the one person to make that decision, would make a different decision. Our role is different. And I think every one of us, and almost all of the selectmen I have worked with collectively, have had to make that choice of where it's not what I personally believe, but it's the right thing for the town. And so every decision we try to make, we truly do try to make with the best interest of the town. This has been, in my 18 years on the board, one of the most difficult 3 months I've ever had. We have had countless meetings, and I want to make something very clear. While, because we're only allowed one person in these meetings, and that has been pretty much me, that does not mean that the voice that I speak is not the collective voice of this board. I want to make that very clear. We work through Justin to get the consensus view of how to go forward with this, and then I become the advocate for that collective voice. So it has been a team. And we have had some very, very difficult discussions with the state, some very difficult discussions. One of the reasons these people were willing to come here this evening is because we have built a relationship with them. While we have pushed hard and had very difficult times, they have never been adversarial. We have not allowed it to get to that point. And we've broken through some barriers, and we've gotten concessions, quite frankly, that no other community has gotten. We are not perfect. We are imperfect human beings. We're doing the best we can, but it has all been done. We made a commitment when this all started to protect our citizens, to do our very best to ensure that our citizens were not put at risk, and to minimize the risk of schools. Now, by the stroke of luck, and no one here at this table will take credit for this, although I wish we could, but we can't. The state changed their strategy and took pretty much the schools off the table for us. I don't know in what infinite wisdom this happened, but it took a huge piece of the problem away. We have not had a single issue on public safety, not one, not a single issue. And the state continues to work with us on an ambulance that no one else has. So it's been tough, it's been hard, and it's come at a price in terms of lack of sleep and angry people and all of that, and I understand it. This is a fearful, scary thing. And when people are fearful of the unknown in a town that has been a very well sort of kept secret from the rest of the world, and that we're kind of a happy little community, this was quite a shock. But we worked our way through it, and we're in as good a place as we could be. The one part that has disappointed me in the whole process, everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone is entitled to argue about policy. I respect everyone's right to do that. The part that has been a disappointment is that I have seen in Norfolk, and I've never seen it before, is that when we go after each other. That is not the way this community should work. Respect each other's differing views. Respect each other's differing opinion. It's okay. That's how we get to the collectively right answer. But to attack someone because they don't agree with you or don't see, that is not the Norfolk I've known for the last 40 years. And I hope that we move beyond it. Because it is counterproductive, it's divisive, there's too much of that in the world today. I've tried very hard to stay away from it because it's something that's very difficult to work through. So that has been my disappointment in this process. But I do want to close with just a public thank you to a lot of people that worked harder than you can possibly imagine. To our police chiefs and our fire chiefs, to Justin, to all of his staff. We have worked through, they primarily have been the force behind this. It worked so many different permutations, trying to understand all of the variables associated with what was before us, not having a lot of information, to anticipate what could go wrong so that we were in a position to deal with it before it actually happened. And I really want to put a shout out to the schools. I can't speak specifically to Norfolk because I'm not on that committee, but I know it was equal to what I did see on the King Philip Committee. They spent countless, not hours, days, trying to come up with different ways to manage what was pretty close to an unmanageable set of circumstances. And they had alternatives. They had ways to try and work this through. And these were all presented to the state and worked through with the state. And this is how we got some of the concessions, is because we had very smart people working out solutions, not just focusing on the problems, but focusing on solutions. And I can't thank these people enough for the hard work that they put in. And to say it went all for naught is not a fair statement. It was all for a lot. It was for the town. And I personally am grateful for all of the hours that our administrative people, our staff, our teachers, our administrators, our superintendents have put in. You have my sincere gratitude. So, with that, I've preached enough for one evening, but the ride is not over, by the way. I don't want to mislead folks. It's alive and well, but it's certainly under a manageable situation. And the people you saw here tonight have been terrific partners. Terrific partners. So, any other closing comments, or is that enough for one night?
I think it's enough.
Okay. Justin, final thoughts?
I have no final thoughts.
Should we approve some warrants?
Oh, if we have to.
All right, I move that we approve the warrants as written in the agenda.
Do I have a second? Second. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
No. Yes.
No? No, we
Yes,
have 2 yeses and a maybe.
Sorry, I'm tired.
That's a unanimous vote. All right, we have some minutes, yes or not?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
of, you need to name the dates.
Okay, which is.
It's
I have them right here.
Oh,
Do you want me to
okay.
keep going? The minutes
Yes.
of April
Yep.
2nd, 2024, June 18th, 2024, June 25th, 2024, July 16th, 2024, and July 30th, 2024. I'm just
have-
going to note, may I just say out loud, that on April 2nd, Kevin hadn't started yet, and on April 2nd, I was actually in Africa, and we didn't have internet, so I couldn't join by Zoom. And so Jim is the only one here. We have permission from the town administrator to go ahead and still approve those minutes.
So I will second, and I will approve those minutes as so stated. Do I have a motion to approve the other minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that fine, Amanda?
I think that'll work.
Yes, it'll work. Just you approved all the minutes.
We approved
did.
all the minutes.
No matter how we got there, we approve.
Approved all the minutes.
There you go.
yeah.
Well, sorry.
All right, well, it was a
Made
long
a mess
evening.
of it.
Thank you all for hanging with us. We thank you for joining us. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Andrew, thank you very much, as always.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Donna.